it seems we have found something special. You see, as a professional photographer, I generally bring 3 types of lenses. A standard focal length for general use, a telephoto lens which allows for shots from further distances and often better portraits, and a wide angle lens for getting as much into a scene as possible. It's taken a bit of time, and now, finally, this configuration can be stuck into your pocket as part of your phone. No adapters or special cases will be required. Thanks to Huawei, the Mate 20, Mate 20 Pro, and Mate 20X have the same focal length trinity squarely, pun intended, on the back of their phones. And boy oh boy is it fantastic. This isn't Huawei's first time with Leica branded 3-camera phones, but in the past, the third camera was a beautiful monochrome lens. Although that was really sweet due to the ability to pick up slightly more detail than a traditional RGB sensor, having the wide-angle lens, in my opinion, is a far better use of that third camera. My name is Adam, tech editor for Gizmo China, and I'll certainly focus on the camera a bit more than usual in my review of the Huawei Mate 20. The sophisticated black box that the Mate 20 comes in really keeps it clean, with only the bright red round Leica logo differing from the understated Huawei Mate 20 branding and logo on the front. There are little texture lines that add to the look quite well. In the box, you'll find the phone, a protective TPU phone case, a SIM tray eject tool, a fast charger, USB-C charging cable, and yeah, some 3.5mm headphones. It's not too often these days when the phone manufacturers include such an important part of the phone experience. Huawei. The design of the Mate 20 is fantastic in just about every way. I'm pretty sure I'm in love with the design of this thing. The very understated black on black on black styling of the back of the device makes me a happy camper. The logo, just right. The Leica camera branding, small enough and colored similar enough that while evident, isn't overpowering. It would, however, be difficult to overshadow the square camera module on the back of this phone, as it's way better than the previous iterations of 3-camera designs. The smartly laid out module headlines this phone not only for the cameras included, but just for the way it looks. Clean, understated, and elegant. Just below the camera bump is the fingerprint sensor. On the Mate 20 Pro, the fingerprint sensor is on the screen, but on this non-Pro version, it's on the back. I like that it's, again, understated without any funky edging, but just clean black on black styling. The aluminum chassis is sandwiched by glass front and back, which makes the beautiful backside, seriously, it's stunning, which makes the rear of the phone a bit of a fingerprint magnet. No worries, just use the included case for both fingerprint and damage protection. The Huawei Mate 20 is 77.2mm wide, 158.2mm tall, and 8.3mm thick, with a weight of 188 grams. The weight feels good, even though the phone's a little bit on the wider side. It still feels alright to hold due to the rounded back. The Mate 20 introduces a teardrop dewdrop notch design on the front of the phone and basically just remove the bezels otherwise. Looking at this phone, it's great to see the bezels just melt away, as the top and bottom bezels are smaller than just about any phone we've seen on an LCD device, while the side bezels are simply minuscule. The 6.53-inch IPS LCD with RGBW and HDR tech is truly the star of the show on the front and offers color detail and speed to prove worthy. In the notch is the front camera with the earpiece speaker just above. The button and auxiliary layout is slightly different than many Android phones these days, with the power and volume rockers on the right side and the SIM card tray on the left. However, the top of the device has, along with 2 antenna lines, an IR blaster, one of those noise reduction microphones, and the 3.5mm audio jack. Yeah, on the top. Then the bottom of the device has the main microphone, USB-C charging port, and the main speaker. The speaker setup is one we've seen from Huawei before, including the Dolby Atmos designation, with most of the sound coming from the bottom firing speaker and just a little mid and high assistance from the earpiece speaker. In reality, there's not much from the secondary speaker, but any bit helps on mobile devices, so I'll take what I can get. Listen to what I mean here. You can see the sound is 95% coming from the main speaker, with overall sound being pretty decent. Not mind-blowing, but I certainly could listen to tunes without complaint on the Mate 20. If you're enjoying our review of the Huawei Mate 20, make sure to press the like button. You know we'd love to hear your thoughts on if you feel Huawei has a winner with the Mate 20, or if you think the Mate 20 Pro is the true winner of the series. Please leave your comments below and subscribe to the Gizmo China channel for more smartphone and tech goodness. With the Mate series, Huawei has jumped headfirst into Android 9.0 Pie using their EMUI skin, and I like it. No, I love it. The biggest feature that you guys all know I love from Android Pie is the gesture system, and it's implemented to near perfection on the Mate 20 with left, right, and bottom swipes, offering different options and a pull and hold for multitasking. Really, although this is a similar system made popular by iOS, it's really fantastic, and I'll likely continue to use this method on any device that's gesture capable. The Mate 20 also has the standard Android 3-key navigation and a movable navigation dock. Both have their places, and I generally use the 3-key navigation option in previous Huawei devices, but with the addition of the fantastic gesture system, I find this option outdated. On the home screen, you can use a standard app layout where they are all on the screen, or you can enable an app drawer. In the display settings, under your more display settings, you can choose to hide the notch, but again, I highly recommend not doing that, as it actually makes the phone feel a little bit uneven, and really the notch doesn't look horrible. Additionally, you can change up the colors to your liking with a fairly intuitive color wheel. Huawei has included one of Android Pie's better new features with the digital balance option to let you know exactly what you do with your device, with the aim that you become more efficient and not too hooked on all the goodies in this phone. Again, I'm not a fan of the sheer amount of apps preloaded on this device, with multiple level folders filled with third-party and Huawei branded apps. It's just not cool with me, and likely most users. Stop it already. Of course, there's a fingerprint reader on the back of the Mate 20 that also allows for swipes to access the quick access switches, which is pretty groovy. The fingerprint ID works well, as you would expect, but it isn't always convenient on the rear of the phone. Facial recognition is excellent, although I did have a little bit of difficulty getting set up, possibly due to my facial hair. And again, it's my go-to for unlocking device because once it's actually set up, it works really well. It's not as secure as the fingerprint scanner, but really works fast and without additional input. You have many smart controls like lift to wake and flip to mute, along with knuckle gestures. To be honest, I'm not a fan of knuckle gestures at all. I like that you can draw letters to open apps, but only when the phone is unlocked. I far prefer the OnePlus option, where drawing letters from a locked device allows for immediate access to certain apps like the camera, notes, or flashlight. The inside of the phone is where the Huawei Mate 20 really begins to show its upgrade over the previous Mate series. Huawei busts out the 7nm for the first time, high silicone Kirin 980 octa-core beast of a chipset, which includes 4 Cortex A76 series chips and 4 Cortex A55 series chips paired with the potent Mali G76 GPU. I can say that navigating menus and system settings has been a breeze. Let's see how gaming and videos work on this thing. In an unfortunate situation, PUBG doesn't currently support high-level graphics on the Mate 20 series. I expect that that's going to change soon, but for now it's only recommending low-quality graphics, which just doesn't make sense due to the graphical power of the Mate 20. In other games, as you see here, I had very few to no issues at the highest resolution, and I certainly gamed happily on the phone. Having internals like this phone has, you had to know the benchmarks would be in the upper tier. And with an Antutu score of 270,731, there's no doubt that the Huawei Mate 20 graphics and video capabilities are better than most might actually need. My review unit is the China-only option of 6GB of RAM with 64GB storage model. Only 40GB is actually usable though. Ouch. And you can also get the device in 4GB RAM and 128GB storage, mix and match configurations as well. Adding in a new proprietary nano SD card expansion of up to 256GB is great, although it's a different size card compared with the more standard and common micro SD. As with most phones these days, the calling interface sound clarity is mostly on point. For those of you who would consider yourselves a power user, this phone and its 4000 milliamp lithium-ion battery battery is right up your alley. With this much juice, you're going to get more than a full day of heavy use, including web browsing, gaming, videos. And then when or if you run out of battery, Huawei has a 22.5 watt supercharger unit that will get you to 58% in 30 minutes safely. In my testing, it was generally a bit faster than that, but I wasn't often starting with zero battery. Now to show what really makes the Mate 20 series and this Huawei Mate 20 a unique beast: the camera system. Right off the rip, you know something special is going on as you see the very unique square camera array on the rear of the phone that includes 3 cameras with different focal lengths and a dual tone flash. The main rear camera on the Mate 20 is a 12 megapixel f1.8 standard focal length camera. Then we have a 16 megapixel f2.2 17 millimeter ultra wide camera, and finally an 8 megapixel f2.4 52 millimeter telephoto option. This configuration offers an incredible amount of flexibility and composition for your shot. On the Mate 20 version of the series, there is no optical stabilization, but most modes there is a pretty fantastic Huawei AI image stabilization, which is their electronic stabilization, so not all is lost. Let's take a look at images from different focal lengths to see how much control you have here. It's really fantastic. The main modes in the camera are at the bottom with aperture, night, portrait, photo, video, pro, and in the more, you have slow-mo, panorama, monochrome, AR lens, light painting, HDR, time-lapse filter, 3D panorama, watermark, documents, and a download option, which can offer a few different additional modes you can, well, download. Of these, and there's a lot to take in that we're going to have a special camera specific video about. Of these, I recommend night, photo, video, pro, time-lapse, 3D panorama, and slow-mo. The night mode is really fun with long exposures, but make sure to keep the camera very still. The pro mode offers manual controls and the ability to record raw DNG images. Time-lapse and slow-mo are 2 of my favorite types of phone camera modes, and these mostly don't disappoint, although the time-lapse only records in 720p and basically has no other useful options. Slow-mo on this is crazy good, with 1080p at 120 frames per second, 720p at 240 frames per second, and a wild and crazy 720p at 960 frames per second for when you really want to slow something down. With photo mode, you get a few options at the top, like the ability to capture a short moving picture, switch up the color profile, and a larger settings menu where you can change the resolution, add watermarks, allow the AI, which has pretty good recognition in my testing, set additional autofocus, and more. Lots of options on this bad boy, that's for sure. On the right side, or on the bottom when in landscape mode, you have a focal length slider with just a tap will switch from regular to zoom to wide, or you can just click and drag to adjust the zoom. It's great, it's a 3-time optical zoom. The front-facing camera is a 24 megapixel shooter that selfie lovers are really going to enjoy. Plenty of modes and easy to access options. Like the main camera, you can use the entirety of the screen as your aspect ratio, but this lowers the resolution and clarity a bit. Use this sparingly. As with the portrait mode on the rear camera, the selfie portrait mode has quite a few filters and options, but I'm just not a fan of portrait modes and the poor job of edge detection on any phone today, so I don't really recommend using it. There's a lot of work to do to make these really useful in anything other than perfect conditions. The front-facing camera has up to 1080p HDR video that looks pretty good.
And sound from it. Yay!
Video on the main rear array is spectacular with HDR10 Plus and up to 4K video. There's 60 frames per second at 1080p only, but I'll definitely take that any day. There's electronic stabilization at all resolutions, making 4K and 1080p at 60 frames per second my go-to resolutions for video taking. In use, I find the video mode to be pretty dang good. Here is a resolution comparison that also shows the stability of the video. It seems the electronic stabilization is good enough for most to use, even on the front-facing camera, and I think that's the first time I've said that. What a wonderful experience I've had with using the triple threat camera on the Mate 20, and I'm glad I no longer have to wait to get a true high-quality experience at differing focal lengths on a camera phone. Make sure to subscribe to the Gizmo China channel for an upcoming video with camera comparisons between the Mate 20, Mate 20 Pro, and the Mate 20X coming soon. So what are your thoughts on the camera? Do you think there's a better camera system out there compare from other brands? Let us know in the comments below. In what is certainly one of the best photo experiences I've ever had with a mobile phone, the Huawei Mate 20 is stacked with power, beauty, flexibility, and just straight up quality. With so little to nitpick and so much to talk about and laud, the Mate 20 is the phone for those of you looking for a powerhouse without the need for Mate 20 Pro's in-screen fingerprint reader or larger megapixel camera, and the cost that comes with. It's my guess that this will be the higher sales volume Mate 20 and is well worth the purchase. Now, let's take a look at the Mate 20X.